Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Okay, welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So glad to have you here today. Really happy that you're here, and you're going to love my guest today. If you're here for the first time, welcome. We're all about talking about things that really matter to emotional eaters. You know, we are a forgotten bunch, even though we're a bunch that is everywhere. We're people who are everywhere, emotional eaters, and yet people don't realize that we have certain kinds of feelings and thoughts and ways of being in the world that is really unique to us, the emotional eating profile, if you will. And I talk about that in my book. So there's many traits that make up the emotional eater. And because of that, I really focus on this show. I focus on topics that are important to people like us. And one of those is beauty, of course, because we want to look our best. We've spent a lifetime not feeling like we look our best. I mean, growing up, I just thought the three primary thoughts that I had was that I was stupid, bad, and ugly. You know, and it was pretty depressing. And so I've spent a lifetime overcoming those deep-seated beliefs. And so beauty has always been important to me because I was fat growing up, and I wasn't attractive at all. And that was really tough for me. And so overcoming that has been a journey. And it's just always been an interest to me to look my best. And so I'm really excited about this guest. I'll tell you about him here, and then I'll rave about him afterwards in my own words. So known as America's holistic plastic surgeon, Anthony Youn, MD, is a nationally recognized board-certified plastic surgeon who's considered one of the country's best-known experts in looking younger with or without surgery. Very important. Recognized as the leader in his field, Dr. Youn is also a regular expert on the Rachel Ray Show, the Dr. Oz Show, The Doctors, many other shows, and his expertise has also been featured on Good Morning America, Today, CBS This Morning, Fox News, CNN. I could go on and on. He also is the host of the podcast, The Holistic Plastic Surgery Show. And you are going to love this conversation because he is truly giving us the best information about how we can look younger, you know, gain those anti-aging secrets without doing a lot of harm to ourselves, which obviously is the goal. So, Tony, so glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me on, Tricia.
It's great to have you, and I just love what you stand for. I love that you are a walking billboard for health. You know,
I try to be, but
my God,
we all have times of weakness, I'm sure. No.
You are in. You know, this is a podcast, so a lot of people are listening. But if you have a chance to jump over to my website and watch this, you will see a beautiful man inside and out. So.
Well, you're too kind. Thank you.
Yeah. So
next subject.
So you are really an amazing person in that you are practicing holistic plastic surgery. So that might sound a little bit like an oxymoron. So let's talk about that. What is that exactly?
Yeah, so the term holistic plastic surgery is something that I came up with several years ago. I mean, I was classically trained. I did 4 years of medical school. I did 3 years of general surgery residency. I did 2 years of plastic surgery residency, did a fellowship with a top cosmetic surgeon in Beverly Hills. And during all of that time, I don't think I had a single true nutrition course, you know, all that time.
Wow.
And so I knew how to you know, do facelifts, do tummy tucks. I knew how to reconstruct breasts in women who've had breast cancer, repair cleft lips. But at the same time, while I was doing all this training, what was I eating? I was eating foods that were horrible for me. And I was following kind of the FDA guidelines of, you know, this is what you're supposed to eat and all of that. So the last several years, it has dawned on me that there is a huge part of plastic surgery, of really looking your best and feeling your best, that I really haven't focused on. And so the last several years, I've really been focusing specifically on that. And it's kind of treating your appearance and your beauty in a whole body fashion. So looking at things obviously like nutrition, like I've mentioned, skincare. Okay. You know, there are a lot of plastic surgeons who have terrible skin. And so taking good care of your skin is more than just applying sunblock. But also other things like mindfulness, like meditation, like de-stressing, and even those parts of plastic surgery that don't have to do with surgery. You know, there are a plethora of options that we have now, short of going under the knife, to get us looking the way that we want to. And it's such an exciting time for plastic surgery. When you look at the future of plastic surgery, ideally, is not having surgery.
Well, and a lot of people, a lot of doctors would have a problem with that, I'm sure, because they're thinking more from a fearful standpoint of, wait a minute, that's my bottom line. And you're stepping out of that box and saying, hey, we can go bigger with this message and help people in a broader way and still, you know, and still do just fine, right?
Exactly. Because, I mean, there are certain situations where surgery is the only true option if you want to get a certain result. But there are so many other ways to get us looking better, get us looking healthier, you know, give us the radiance that we're looking for that has nothing to do with needles or a scalpel. And so I strongly believe that those are the things that we need to go after first, because it doesn't do you any good if I do a facelift on you and your neck is tight, if your skin looks terrible, or if if you are really bloated, if I do a tummy tuck yet you have a bloating issue because your microbiome is completely screwed up, then I'm not doing you much of a favor there either. And so it really is looking at it from this whole body perspective. And I tell you, Tricia, you know, when I look at my career, and I've been a practicing plastic surgeon in private practice for the last 13 years, the thing I'm most proud of in the last 13 years are the hundreds and hundreds of people I got off cigarettes. Because I would literally tell them, they say, Dr. Youn, I want a facelift. I say, okay, then you have to quit smoking. And they'd look at me, are you sure? Do I have to? Can I just quit for a week or two? And it's like, no, you got to choose either your face or smoking, or you got to choose your breasts or smoking, or your tummy or smoking. And you may say, hey, if you keep smoking, you're going to get lung cancer, or you may have a heart attack, or you'll be increased risk of emphysema. And they don't care a lot of times, you know. But if you say, you know what, you're going to have to keep that loose skin of your neck, then sometimes that is actually the incentive that people need to be healthier.
Well, whatever it takes, you know, and I'm so glad you bring that up, because I think the worst skin I've ever seen is on a smoker. I mean, that gray pallor that people have when they're, you know, lifetime smokers. It's so sad. I mean, it really is. I mean, they're not just killing themselves, but obviously their complexion and their everything about their skin.
Yeah. And as plastic surgeons, you know, what are we taught? How to take care of your skin. You wear sunblock, you don't smoke, you know, but there's not a whole lot more that they teach us. You know, they don't teach us anything, you know, in residency about exfoliating your skin, about using antioxidants, you know, about using vitamin A, about how the diet can have such a profound impact on your skin, about how eating dairy could be inflammatory and increase your risk of acne and all this stuff. So that's where, as a holistic plastic surgeon, what I want to do is try to give that set that message out there using things like the podcast, which I established just under a year ago, as well as through social media like our Facebook page.
Yeah, good for you. I'm so glad. And then, so do you literally give, how do you give people nutritional advice? Do you give them a protocol to follow, or what? Yeah,
well, the first thing I usually recommend is to take a peek at my website. If you go to dryoun.com, there's a free ebook called What to Eat to Look Younger. Very easy to read, and it really is a step-by-step guide on the types of foods to eat, the types of foods not to eat, as well as food switches, little changes that you can make to your diet that can really have profound impacts on your aging process. And so that's one step that I encourage people to take, you know, is to go to the website, download that free ebook, What to Eat to Look Younger. Just very simple, easy step. And then what I do typically is I send regular newsletters. I know you do the same thing to try to get that information into people's hands, the newest stuff, you know, little tips and tricks, as well as share it on social media.
That's beautiful. And I am sure that sugar is making that list of things to swap out, right?
Exactly. So that if anybody asks, what is the number one ager of skin when you look at diet, then I always start with sugar, because sugar, as we know, it creates inflammation in multiple different pathways, from glycation to increase to the insulin spikes that you can get. All of that leads to inflammation, and inflammation really is the great ager of our skin. And an easy way to think about it, I guess, for those people who haven't really thought, oh, really, I guess it does make sense that the foods we eat can really impact your skin. But on top of that, I guess when you think about food, you may think about food as whether it's good or bad for your internal organs, your heart, your digestive system and all of that. But a lot of those internal organs are made of very similar things as our skin, collagen, the endothelial cells and all of that. And so typically, if you're not sure what is good, usually for your gut and for your heart, is usually also going to be good for your skin.
Right. So true. But it is amazing. I mean, emotional eaters obviously have a career in eating sugar, and carbs and unhealthy foods, chemicals and whatnot. And it is such a destructor of our skin. And also obviously the weight gain, the yo-yo dieting, which I used to do so much of, the up and down, and that really kills the elasticity in our skin.
And I see that so much with my patients, because so many of my patients, they come in and yeah, they do have issues with their self-esteem. And what do? They eat, and they become emotional eaters. And by following a lot of the recommendations that you give, especially in your great book, this really can help not only, patients who feel like their issue is eating, but patients who may not quite correlate their emotional eating with, geez, why is it that my skin doesn't look so good? Why is it that in the last 5 years, I feel like I've aged 20? I see that all the time. Patients who they have these periods of their life where it's very stressful. They have a divorce, they have a parent die, or they're taking care of a sick parent. And what do? They emotionally eat. And you combine that emotional eating with those foods that you mentioned with all the stress. And we know stress also causes premature aging. And then they show up to see me afterwards and they say, look, I feel like I've aged 20 years in the last 5. And so one of the first things to start treating is that emotional eating, just like you said.
Good for you. That's such an important message and so overlooked. It's unbelievable. So, tell me a few of the other vitamins. I take E because I know I always notice a difference in my skin when I take vitamin E. Yeah, vitamin E is great. Really, I think overall what you want to look at, and supplements, I know that there are a lot of different supplements that people recommend, and I don't have something that I would recommend specifically for this show, but really pretty simply is any of those vitamins, you are looking at antioxidants. And one of the big agers of our skin are free radicals. And you want to try to fight these free radicals. Now, you can do it by ingesting the free radicals, which is obviously by eating a diet rich in colorful fruits and vegetables. But the other thing also is applying that to your skin. And so if you say, hey, what should I apply to my skin that can help fight the free radicals? First thing to do, very simple, is to buy a vitamin C serum. Okay, now vitamin C serums are made by lots of different companies. Find one that you trust, that you feel comfortable with, and apply it in the morning. Because what you're going to do is, even if you apply sunscreen, so if you use, let's say, mineral makeup, and that's got a good sunblock in it, you may be blocking the rays of the sun, but what you're not blocking are those free radicals that will attack your skin from things like pollution, from automobile exhaust, from people smoking around you. And that's what applying that vitamin C serum in the morning can really do for you. Okay. But don't bother applying it at night, because at night you're going to be sleeping and you don't have to defend your skin at night. And so at night, I usually recommend that's when you do the anti-aging creams, like a vitamin A or a retinoid type of a cream. Okay. Well, you just saved me some money because I put my vitamin C serum on twice a day.
You probably don't need to. And vitamin C serums can be very expensive.
Yeah.
So now if your vitamin C serum has some other things in it, that's a different story if you want to apply it at night. But if it's a pure vitamin C serum, then I would save your money. Just do it in the morning. And at night, you want to apply something that's more of an active anti-ager. And if you ask dermatologists and plastic surgeons across the country, what is the one ingredient that you would recommend above all others, the vast majority of them would say a retinoid. Okay. And retinoids come in prescription strength and non-prescription strength. Prescription strength, we know it as Retin-A. All right. Or tretinoin is the other name for it. Non-prescription strength is a retinol. And the vast majority of skincare companies do have their own version of a retinol cream.
Okay, so that's a good thing to use at night. That's good to know. Let's talk about belly fat, shall we?
Sure.
That's a big problem for emotional eaters, obviously. Mm-hmm. And you have, I mean, you obviously must do surgery around, fat reduction or I don't know, do you do liposuction?
Yeah. And it's interesting because if you were to have asked me 10 years ago, or even 7 years ago, how do I get rid of stubborn fat without dieting and exercising? Or let's say I diet and exercise, I'm in great shape, I take great care of myself, and I still have this pooch of fat that my mom or my dad basically gifted me. I'd say the only real option is lipo to do that if you can't do it on your own. But the great thing is that answer is different now. And I used to say that the holy grail of plastic surgery is how do you get rid of stubborn fat without diet and exercise or surgery? And that holy grail we have, you can actually get rid of stubborn fat pockets now without going under the knife. And there are two devices that are probably the most popular and the most effective right now. There's one called Cool Sculpting, and these two devices work exactly oppositely. There's one called Cool Sculpting where you actually freeze the fat. And with basically a 1 hour treatment, you can get rid of about 25% of the thickness of that area of fat after one 1 hour treatment. The other one is called Sculpture, and that's what we actually have in our office. It's a 25-minute treatment with very similar results. The Sculpture uses a laser to target the fat and kill those fat cells. So both of these with very similar results, but it's great because, it's not for somebody who wants to lose weight. It's really for those people who have stubborn areas of fat that they just developed that their mom or their dad gave them, and no matter what they do, they can't get rid of it.
Oh, that's so interesting. I didn't know that. And I totally agree with you. If somebody has fat because they're overweight, no machine or anything is going to solve the problem. But it's interesting because I personally, and people hear me talk about it all the time because I talk about my belly because I have a fat belly, like a roll of fat on my tummy that no matter literally what size I am, I could be like super slim and I still have that fat. So that's what that's for. That's so interesting.
Yeah, but you have to also keep in mind, for women who've had children, or if you've been quite heavy and you've lost weight, you have to consider too loose skin. And that is the one thing, unfortunately, that, I mentioned earlier that there are some things that only surgery can help. And loose skin really is the one thing that we just don't have anything good for other than surgery.
Yeah.
So if it's a situation where you say, my skin's pretty tight, either I haven't had children, I haven't, been real heavy, and my skin's good, but I just have this little extra roll, then those treatments, Cool Sculpting and Sculpture, can really work. If, however, it's from having children or from being heavy and the skin has been stretched out, then the only real effective option is a tummy tuck. And, I do a lot of tummy tucks, but they're big operations with big scars. And so first thing, that's what I tell patients when I consult with them is if you're looking for a tummy tuck, it is a big operation and it really has to be something that you've thought a lot about.
Yeah. And when I was talking about my little fat tummy, I wasn't talking about the loose skin. And I don't think I'd ever even do the Cool Sculpting because I'm okay with it. Like it's part of who I am. That's the best way to think about it, really. Yeah. Those are my little boobs. Yep. That's just part of who I am.
That's all right.
Not going on a knife or doing anything special for those things. So, but that's interesting. And it is, for people who maybe have bariatric surgery or something and they do lose a lot of weight, they do have a lot. I know my husband for years, he lost over 100 pounds and for years, he did these special exercises. When I first met him, I've known him for 30 years. And when I first met him, he did special exercises in the morning to firm up his tummy because he had lost a lot of weight and had a lot of extra skin, not like a gross amount of skin, like somebody who's lost 200 or 300 pounds. But definitely for years, he did exercises to firm up his tummy because of that. And now it's just, he's more normal. It's interesting. It seemed to work.
I mean, 100 pounds is a lot of weight. I see people who've lost 100, and a lot of them do have a lot of extra skin. So if he doesn't, then he's very fortunate, because I see people who've lost even just 60 pounds, which, I mean, 60 is a lot of weight. And they have a lot of loose skin even at that.
Yeah, I guess it's the age, because I lost 50 pounds and I never had extra loose skin, but I was young when I lost it. So I think that makes a difference, right?
I think it does. You know, obviously the size you are and the amount you lose, but the quality of your skin is a big deal. And some of that too can be genetic, as well as how well you take care of yourself. And so, you know, that really can affect it as well.
No question. Do you see people who go under the knife because they have lots of loose skin and then they put a lot of weight back on? Because that happens with a lot of people who have weight loss surgery.
It can. In my practice, I haven't seen it a whole lot, but definitely that can happen with weight loss surgery. You know, when I started my practice in 2003, around then, that was when the lap band was really popular. And I even recommended that to a few people because it was a less invasive option. But now we found that it really doesn't seem to last that well. And the vast majority of patients who've had that surgery have gained their weight back.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's a new thing that actually the company had asked me to look into are these weight loss balloons, where you swallow a balloon and it takes up space in your tummy and in your stomach and helps to decrease your appetite because of that. But you know, I turned it down. I don't think that that's the right way to go. I mean, the right way to go really is looking at your health and really taking charge of your own health. Not trying to find somebody else to operate on you, or to have you use some technological instrument to get you where you want to be. I mean, it really has to come from yourself, because in the end, it comes down to not so much the number of how much you weigh, but of your health and of wanting to be here for the next, 50 years or whatever. And that's where information like, what you give and a lot of our colleagues and our good friends, I think is so, so important to be the starting point for a lot of people.
No doubt. And I love you for that. Thank you so much for saying that, because it's so tragic that people, do have, the doctors actually perpetuate the notion that this problem can be fixed from the outside, because it is such an inside. Now, the problem was created from the inside, our compulsions to medicate our feelings basically, with food. And then the only solution is truly to address that from the inside, and the self-esteem that makes us think we're not okay the way that we are, or whatever it is that we've gone through. So I just really, boy, man, I'm jumping on your wagon and helping you carry that message, because that is so vital.
And that's the difficult thing, I think, about being a plastic surgeon, is that, yes, there are those situations where people come to me and they want something, and it's hard because I say no to a lot of people. And there is that part of me that wonders, am I kind of perpetuating society's expectations, unrealistic expectations, especially of women, because 90% of plastic surgery patients are women. But it's hard to be a woman in today's society. It's hard to get, especially to be an older and aging woman. It's very, very difficult. And I feel for so many of my patients in that way, because they tend to feel invisible. When you're 20, 25, people are paying attention to you, and all of a sudden you're 30 or you have kids, and those guys aren't paying attention anymore. And it's this feeling of invisibility that I hear from so many of my patients. And it really is an emotional, it is a very difficult issue that they deal with. And sometimes if I can make it better by doing certain things to make them feel better, and you see them actually come back to the office and they carry themselves differently and they feel so different about themselves, then by all means, I'm happy to do that. But it's trying to ride that line of what is reasonable, what's realistic, versus, hey, am I putting a Band-Aid on what is essentially a deep down insecurity that is much better for them to see a therapist to take care of?
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad you're asking that question, and you're struggling with that. Not that I want you to struggle, but I can imagine it is a struggle, a struggle of conscience. And I mean, I just really applaud you for asking those tough questions and turning people down. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, I live in Los Angeles. I mean, I'm 5 miles from Beverly Hills, and I mean, it's really the epicenter of, fix ourselves from the outside. And it's, whether it's by expensive clothes or purses or makeup or plastic surgery. So it's just really important to keep our conscience and I don't think it can be said enough, that it is an inside job ultimately.
And what I try to tell my patients is, it's very simple, is the way I look at it is, getting older is a blessing, because if we weren't getting older, then, we don't want to consider that. We'd be in the ground. So getting older, you have to think of it as a blessing. But looking in the mirror as you get older isn't necessarily all that fun sometimes. So if you want to fight it every step of the way, then by all means do that. Look at it, look at the big picture, and getting older is a blessing. But hey, let's fight it every step of the way. Let's have fun while we do it. Let's try these new products. Let's do this. Let's do that. All obviously within reason.
Yes. That's beautiful. And it's so true. And it is, it's part of life. I'm going through it myself, obviously. And we have to balance the, how can I look my best with how can I also treat myself with love and accept, accept aging as a natural thing, just like the seasons we go through.
Exactly. Like I said, I look at it as, for myself, I see wrinkles showing up and stuff. And there's that thought of, I'm going to be nearing 50 in not too long, but you make every day worth it. You make it count. And if you can help other people along the way, then all the better.
Yeah. And I think surrounding ourselves with people who affirm our beauty as well is important. Having friends who are, helpful and positive and loving. I know my husband is crazy about me, and he tells me I'm beautiful like every day. Sometimes I'm like, dude,
it's a good husband.
I got it. It's really so sweet, but I'm sure it's made an impact on my self-esteem to hear that and have other people affirm that. So, we don't just have to do it for ourselves. If we can, be conscious of the company we keep, so that we're not hanging out with people who are subtly or obviously, somehow making comments about how we look in a negative way. If we can have people who are, positive and affirming of who we are inside and out, I think that helps too. I think that's super, super important, because I do see so many patients who come in, and typically it's women who come in and their husband will be with them. And I get so angry, because you'll see this woman who's tiny, who, isn't eating much and is always exercising, and this big dude who's, gluttonous, and he's pointing out she needs lipo here and here. I get so angry. Oh my God, that's awful.
But and people put themselves into these types of relationships that I don't understand it. And I feel for these women. And sometimes I've tried to take them aside on my own and try to talk with them. But the funny thing that happens occasionally, which I really enjoy, is I've seen some women where this happens, and let's say they come in and they want a tummy tuck. They've had multiple kids, the husband's all on board. Yeah, this is what she needs. The woman does that. She feels so good about herself, and she dumps the loser.
Oh my God,
and he's great. Gone. And so that I like to see.
Yeah. Then you're doing your job. It's working. That's so true. That's wonderful. And that's part of getting healthy. So much of getting healthy is taking a look at our relationships and, is this enhancing me or detracting from me, and making those important changes. I tell people that all the time, not to dump their husband, obviously, but if they start working on themselves and looking at, taking a good look at what's really going on. Nobody's ever just binging, it's the food compulsion is a symptom of deeper pain. And that pain obviously started at a young age, most of the time for emotional eaters, but we perpetuate, the beliefs about ourselves into painful situations, into our daily lives, including people we marry or people we work for or whatever. And that it's a package deal. We got to look at all of it in order to truly be healthy and heal.
That is definitely true.
Yeah. Well, gosh, this is great. It's so good to talk to you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, it's great. And for people who want more of Dr. Tony, you definitely should check out his holistic plastic surgery show on iTunes, right? That's probably the best place to go for that. And his website, dryoun.com. Youn is Youn. And I'll also put his link in the show notes as well. So I have a one final question for you that I always ask my guests, or I try to always remember to ask, and that is, what is your deepest hunger, Tony?
My deepest hunger is to feel that when my days are done, that I've lived a fulfilled life. That when I look back, I don't look back and say, I wasted my time. And I'm still not sure, there are parts of it that I wonder, what will make me feel fulfilled when I'm at the end of my days. Will it be having a great relationship with my kids? Will it be having had a, hopefully 60-year marriage to my wife? I don't know right now. And I think that's the journey that for me that I'm taking. But the end goal, I think, is when I look back at the end of the days is, well, I've lived a fulfilled life.
That's a beautiful thing to really contemplate. And I will say I think you're on the right track.
I hope so. Because I'm at least halfway there, I think.
Yeah, you're definitely on the right track. So it's written all over you. So thank you so much for being here. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Tricia. It was my pleasure.
If you enjoyed this show and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.